Welcome to the Shower Genius podcast, where breakthrough ideas flow, creativity thrives, and success is redefined. Hosted by Dina Brown Mitchell, international best-selling author, award-winning entrepreneur, and motivational speaker. This show is designed to help high achievers break free from burnout, reclaim their time, and turn their biggest ideas into reality. Get ready for insights, expert interviews, and strategies that will transform your life and business. Let's step into clarity, creativity, and success together. Hi, friends. It's Dina at the Shower Genius Podcasts, and I'm here today with my friend and partner, Christopher D'Armani, and we have another business together. So we're going to tell you about that today. But first, I would like Christopher to introduce himself and tell us how he first started in business.
Okay, well, hello. Thanks for having me on, Dina. This is kind of exciting. So for the people who don't know me, I help Christian nonfiction writers help get their book out of their head and into print. And so that's the thing that I've been working on for a long time. I've been a writer my whole life. I've got 50 published books. I've developed a system to help writers be able to get that book out of their head and into print really easily. And so that's what I was focusing on. Well, I'm still focusing on, but that's what I was focusing on when I first met you. We were, I think it was one of, forget his name off the head, the challenge guy, Pedro Adeo's challenges is probably where we first met. Is that or some other event? Anyways, we met at an online event. We kind of connected. We kept in touch after the event. Then we've discovered we were on another event together, kept in connection. And eventually you and I and a couple others developed a small mastermind group. And that's really where the whole Wolfpack thing came out of, was the power of that small mastermind group, as we were each developing our own individual businesses. Just the power of having those people and to be able to bounce feedback off of and all that stuff. It was just such a powerful thing that you and I at one point just said, well, we should just really do this as well. Turn this into a business because we can help a lot of people this way, which is both of our goals. So how's that for an intro? Does that work for you?
Yeah, it's very true. I think we first met in TVE, which is the virtual event on virtual events, if any of you know that.
Yeah.
And I think then we were in a workshop with Pedro together, and we got put in a breakout again.
Yeah, that was funny.
So
that was good.
We had several conversations already at that point. And I was thinking of starting a mastermind, and we just had a conversation, and we ran two different beta masterminds for over a year each, and really saw how much growth happened for all of us. And so then I guess it's been over 2 years now, we started talking about Wolfpack, and we were both in a place, and I'll let you explain where you were, but I was in a place where I had all these ideas and I had taken a lot of action to create a business, but the tech was really holding me back because I was paying for 5 different things, and I was too busy working on my business to try to figure out how to make that work. And so I think we were in a similar situation.
Well, it was during one of our mastermind sessions where I was walking the group through the funnel that I had created for, I was running either a 3-day event or a challenge, I forget which one, but I was very proud of this thing I created, and I'm a tech guy. I've cobbled a bunch of stuff together, all based off of WordPress. And I showed everybody the sales page, the landing page, all that stuff. And then somebody said, well, and so what happens when you click the button? And I went, something really awesome happens. And I clicked the button and nothing happened. And it was just like, the funnel was supposedly live. It was in the middle of the promotion period to get people to sign up. And here I am with a funnel that literally you can't join because the button is somehow not working. And I mean, that freaked me out. There's no doubt about it. And it's not like I'm not a technical person. I've built websites on WordPress for probably close to 20 years. So I know the ins and outs of all that stuff, but it was the cobbling together of a bunch of different systems, I guess. I still don't know what exactly went wrong. But one of the members of the group said, well, why don't you try building this funnel on Go High Level? He had the white label of the platform, and he said to me, we can get you up and running probably within an hour. Everything you've got there right now that's not working, we can have it working within an hour. And he was close. It was like 70 minutes. And I was able to walk through rebuilding the entire thing, copying, pasting all the content, building out the pages, all that stuff. And it all worked inside an hour. And that sold me on the idea that I can't be working on platforms that I have to cobble things together. That was the thing that you and I both had in common. Was we had a website, we had an email system, we had forms. We were paying for like 6 or 8 different things, and then trying to make them all work together, which is just such a challenge for so many people. And when we discovered that Go High Level had all this stuff natively built in, and it all just worked, that really was, I think, the starting point for you and I building up what we've created with Wolfpack. Was that now we have a platform where everything that you need is there, and it actually works, which is so critical. I mean, is there a learning curve? Of course there is. There's a learning curve with everything you try this new. But the beauty of the platform is that whatever skills that you already have, they're easily transferable. It's a page builder is a page builder. It doesn't really much matter. But I mean, that's the technical issue that kind of brought you and I together. But I think the bigger thing, at least in my belief, is that you and I saw the world very similarly. We both believe that mindset was the basis of everything. And we both are big fans of Napoleon Hill. So whatever I can conceive and believe I can achieve, everything that we were trying to accomplish at that point was all based on, I know I can do this. I know it's possible. B, I know that I can do this. I might need a little bit of help and support to get some of the nuts and bolts figured out, but I can do this. And then figuring out the marketing stuff. I mean, and the thing to remember that all this stuff is always an ongoing search for clarity. No matter how clear I am today, I'm going to be more clear tomorrow. And again, no matter how clear I am today, I'm more clear than I was yesterday.
Yeah, it's true.
That's such a fundamental truth that, like today, I go for a daily walk. It usually takes me about an hour, and I put on an audio book, or I put on a sales training, or I put on whatever the thing is that I'm focused on in that moment, so that while I'm spending this time doing this one thing that needs to be done anyways, I get to double down and actually learn something more along the ways, or just retrain my brain on that thing. Like for a while there, I was listening to Think and Grow Rich? Yeah, Think and Grow Rich. I think I listened to it 5 times in a row on this series of daily walks, just because every time I listened to it, I would something else would be the core focus of all of that. So, yeah, mindset's the foundation of everything, and that's really, it's true for when I'm working with writers. If I can get you into the idea that I don't care what your background is, I don't care what your education is, I don't care what your writing skills is, I don't care how fast you can write. I have a system that I can tell you precisely, based on your skills and abilities, how long it'll take you to write your first draft. And once you have that certainty that you can do it in X number of days, it suddenly becomes real. And it becomes, I can actually do this. So the sitting in the chair is the easy part. It's getting yourself into the chair tends to be the harder part. And it all starts right here. And so everything that I do with writers is focused on getting their head into that place where I can do this, I know I can do this, and I have a proven system that will allow me to make this a reality in my life. And it's basically that same principle that you and I think, live by and have really infused Wolfpack with as well. That's the whole point of it, is to get the mind right so that everything else can happen.
Well, I know I've said this a million times, but the Shower Genius book came about because of Christopher's advice, because I had all these ideas, but I hadn't really organized them in the framework that it is today. And he gave me a couple different things that he teaches people, and it just it just clicked. And so he always says, you call me 5 weeks later and have a published book. But I mean, that's how the Shower Genius happened, because I don't know that it would have been organized and presented as well as it is without your input and guidance. So thank
Well,
you.
and I've said this a million times in various places, like Dina is my go-to success story, because how this all came about, Dina came to one of my challenges. I think it was a 3 or a 5 day challenge. And she showed up every day, learned what I was sharing. And in the course of learning what I was sharing over those 3 or 5 days, whichever version it was, she found the one thing that was missing. And then she literally disappeared. I didn't hear from her again for literally 5 weeks. And the next time I hear from her, she's like holding up a copy of her book in her hand. Goes, hey, look, this is only because of you. And I'm like, wow, that's so cool. So today, when I'm going through like a webinar or whatever, a training, is like, I give the example of what Dina accomplished. And now you may not be a Dina, but you can still get this done. It's just a really fun example of what's possible when you give someone that one missing piece, because we're all just like one missing piece away. And once we find it, we can actually make all the progress we know that we're meant to do. And you went and did that in space. It was just so funny. It's my favorite story. It really is.
That's funny. And when you were talking about the tech with all the different things, I was in that place back then too. And I feel like I couldn't help it. I was in that place, and I found Active Campaign, and I really thought that was the answer. Like, it really did everything in one place, I thought, and I built it all out. It took me a while because I was new to the platform, and then I had it all working and set up, and it was the night before my first challenge for the Shower Genius, and it wasn't working. I don't remember what part wasn't working, but I got on Zoom with somebody that I thought could help me, and we figured it out, and I did the challenge. Of course, it was the first one. I had probably maybe 15 people there, and it wasn't as successful as I would like. But I also think part of this podcast is talking about where we've fallen down, where we've had struggles, so we can talk about how we remedied it. So I think that it was because it's just like when I talk about scars to stars. Thankful for the scars is my motto, because when we have a problem, it's what makes us better and stronger moving forward, because we learn from it. And so I think, the more we grow in a business, or the more we grow personally, usually because of something that was a stumbling block, and that helped us understand something so that we could move forward better. And so I think you have to go through all those stages to get to the success you're looking for. And so when that happens the first time, don't stop, because that's just part of the journey.
That's where the good stuff comes from.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Denzel Washington, in one of his speeches to some university or college somewhere, he talks, it's such a great video. It's on YouTube. He talks about fail forward, fail big. Like, if you're going to fail. This is non-negotiable. It happens to everybody. So since you're already going to fail, you might as well shoot for the moon, and fail big. Like, instead of, well, I'm going to try and write 200 words today. Well, aim for 1,000. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You don't get there, but you'll get to see where you go. I want to share a story about, this is many years ago now. I was in a writing program with someone else, and she challenged us to write a single book in 90 days. Now that I can do that, that's easy, because I had enough experience at that point that, I knew what I was capable of. And so in the prep work in December, we were starting the 90 days on January 1st. In December, I spent my time building out the outline, figuring out what is the book going to be about, what are the chapters, all that kind of good stuff. But in that process, I realized that this is going to be one massive book, and no one's going to read a book that's 3 inches thick. And I thought, well, why don't I split it up into smaller books? And the whole thing broke down naturally into 7 different pieces. So I set up to write 7 smaller books. And I thought, well, that's a lot to do in 90 days. I don't know that that's possible. But I built out the schedule as if it was. And the schedule freaked me out. It's like each first draft I needed to complete in, I think it was 5 or 6 days, in order to allow for the editing and the proofreading and all the various stages of getting it ready for publication. And at the beginning of that process, in my head, I'm saying, well, I don't think this is possible, but I'm just going to go see how far I get. And it was the let me see how far I can get attitude that allowed me not only to complete those 7 books in 90 days and get them published, but in the process of writing them, I realized I needed to have 4 companion workbooks for the first 4 books in the series. So I published a total of 11 books in 90 days and blew myself away. And what I learned from that is that, and I say this all the time, like, we are capable of so much more than we think we are in everything that we do. Everything that we do. The example that I use is the guy that ran the 4-minute mile first, whose name now, of course, is going to escape me. The day before, it was May 3rd, 1964, I think was the date. On May 2nd, the whole world knew that running a 4-minute mile was impossible. Can't be done. Human body just can't do it. One day later, the whole world knew it was possible. And 46 days after that, someone else did it too. So once we break down this idea that something's not possible, once we eliminate the fact that what we believe is a fact that it's not possible, and just go with, well, I can do this, or at a minimum, I'm going to see how far I get, but I know I can get further than whatever this arbitrary or illogical benchmark is. We're always capable of more than we think we are. And like, just take a day. Like, if I stop playing Free Cell for an hour, imagine what I can accomplish in that hour, right? It's a matter of focus. It's a matter of intention. It's a matter of making the things that are important a priority in our life. Because here's another thing I say all of the time. Whatever you're doing, if you track your time for a day, or better for a week, you will discover some really uncomfortable truths about yourself. Is you spend a lot of time doing nothing. And when I say doing nothing, I'm saying playing whatever your favorite video game is, or computer game, or binge watching Netflix, or whatever those things are, that if you simply took one of those hours and applied it to growing your business, it would transform your world. So that's the core of everything that you and I try to teach people, is like, get a focus, take positive, measurable steps towards completing that every single day, whether you feel like it or not. That's the important part. Whether you feel like it or not, and amazing things will happen in your life.
That is true. That is very true. So I want to talk about when we started Wolfpack and why we started it.
Okay.
So do you want to talk about that, or do you want me to?
Well, why did you start us?
So after we had been doing these mastermind, like, beta groups for a while, and we were proving that our idea of helping people grow their business was working, we just decided that we wanted to start a business. And so we started talking about names and all these things. And I was like, well, I'm just a huge fan of wolves. Like, by the way, we have Maverick here, our little mascot,
Awesome. Hey, Mav.
He's always on my desk. But I have this thing. I had huskies, like Siberian huskies, for 15 years or something like that. But I also spent a couple of summers in Alaska when I was in college, and I just had this weird connection to wolves. And I know a lot of people do, because there's so many things in the world called Wolfpack something. But it's just my spirit animal, I guess. And so I started talking about it. And Christopher, you might remember more about what I said in the beginning about that. But then we just started talking about wolf pack and how wolves have to be in a pack. They're not, they're, there's a lot of connotations about lone wolves, but wolves live in a pack and they support each other and they help feed each other and they hunt together and everything. And so it just made a lot of sense to us, the principles around wolves and their packs and what we were trying to create. So, what do you want to add to that?
Whew, that's a great question. I think I want to start with the idea of the lone wolf. When we start our own business, we are literally a lone wolf. We wear every single hat that there is, and a whole bunch that we're not even aware of. And if we, one of the lines that we came up with it when we were developing marketing stuff was, you can survive as a lone wolf, but you can only thrive with a pack. And that is just so true, because when you have a group of people, not necessarily working with you, but I'm going to go back to the mastermind group idea. If you have a group of people who believe in you and believe in what you're doing and are willing to put all of their expertise, pour all of their expertise and wisdom into you to help you get whatever that problem is that you're facing solved, it's just so much easier. And solutions come out of left field that individually none of us in the group would ever even come up with. And yet once we're in that when that magic is happening inside that 1 hour space, it's hugely powerful. And the solutions that we come up with are things that, like I said, we would never have come up with on our own or whatever. It's just so powerful. And the whole wolf thing, the whole wolf motif, that's always been a huge factor in my life. Like at one point in my life, I had people gave me a nickname that was Wolf. It was like, oh, I don't know where that's coming from, but whatever, that sounds cool. And I never used it. It never stuck, but there's a certain group of people, this is back when I was really young, that's what they call me. Like, weird, whatever. But the idea of the lone wolf howling at a mountaintop is always something that's resonated really deeply with me. The idea of running with the pack simply because it makes survival, well, not survival, it makes thriving really, really easy. Whereas surviving on your own can be really, really challenging. And this is from a guy, I'm an introvert, I'm a loner. I don't have a university education. Everything that I know, I've taught myself. I've sought out the knowledge because I knew I needed it. And that's been a system that, for me, worked really, really well. So I taught myself how to write. I taught myself how to computer program. I taught myself how to do all kinds of other things that most people would never even attempt. And it all boils down for me is that, well, I know it's possible. So that just means I need to learn something. So how do I go about learning whatever this skill is? And my particular personality is I will dive in and nothing else will exist for whatever this time span is, whether it's a day, a week, or a month, to figure out how do I solve this problem or how do I learn this skill? And then I just implement it. And I use computer programming every day of my life practically. It's been one of those things that has just really helped me move forward in ways that other people can't, because they just don't have a skill set that allows them to apply, that they can apply to whatever that problem is. Plus, I've got this deep innate love of tech. I always have. I've always wanted to know how things work on a computer. From the very first time I bought my first, what was it, a 386? It's really expensive, really gutless. But I started programming and figuring out how to make this thing do the thing that I want it to do. If it's going to be sitting there doing stuff, I might as well do what I want, the way I want. And that's sort of how I approached everything is there's a way to get this done. I'm going to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
Is that kind of where you were going, Dina, or wanting me to go?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. It's just if I need to do something or want to do something, it's just I get in figure it out mode and stay there until I figure it out, because that's just, I think I get that from my parents. But I also think it's just a drive. I think people who are starting businesses and creating things in the world have to be driven in some capacity. And,
absolutely.
And I also think that being driven can also be to your own detriment if you're not taking care of yourself, which is what we talk about here. I think there's a lot of misconception, especially for new business owners or people who are never experienced working for themselves. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about, the grass is greener if you have your own business and be your own boss. And, it makes it sound glamorous and easy, but it's not. And if
Well,
you,
I think it can be true 20 years down the road once you're really, really successful. But for that first 10 years, it's really hard because you've got to figure out a lot of stuff and you got to fail a lot and you got to learn a lot.
Hey there, high achievers. Quick question. Are you constantly feeling overwhelmed, drained, or stuck in burnout mode? Do you feel like you're spinning your wheels but not making real progress? Well, I've got something for you. Take the Shower Genius quiz, a quick, insightful tool designed to help you pinpoint exactly where you're getting stuck and what's holding you back from reaching your full potential. In just a few minutes, you'll uncover where burnout is creeping into your life, what's draining your energy and focus, and how to reclaim your time, creativity, and productivity. And the best part, it's completely free. So don't wait. Hit pause, head over to theshowergenius.com and take the quiz now. Your breakthrough starts here. Very true. I think I want you to explain what our accountability packs are and why they work so well.
Well, that's easy and awesome. The accountability packs are small groups of 4 people. And we tried different numbers, and there's advice from other places. Some say that, like I'm in a men's mastermind group with my church where we've got a group of 8 people. And for that particular thing that works well, but for what we discovered, a group of 4 people worked really, really well. And so there's one person who's moderating, that's typically me or Dina. And then there's 4 people that are individuals that are part of the group. And so we start off with 2 minutes of going around the room and asking everyone, what is your biggest win of the week? And what is the biggest thing that you saw you need more help with? And then, so we spend a few minutes each going around the room doing that. Then one person is on the success seat, what others might call the hot seat. We call it the success seat. And they can bring an idea, a problem, a thing that they need help with to the group. They explain that as clearly as they can, because this truly is an exercise in gaining clarity. So they explain to the best of their ability. The rest of the group reflects back what they heard, and we figure out together, well, did we hear what you actually said or what the problem actually is? Or is there somewhere else we need more clarity? And that goes on for, 40-ish minutes. And then at the tail end of the meeting, at the tail end of the session, we go around the room again for about a minute or two, and we set what is the objective we want to accomplish for the following week. And that format works so well because every single week, we have to, there's an example running through my head. We have to, do a bunch of work because we promised the group that we were going to do it. And nobody wants to show up at these meetings saying, yeah, well, I didn't get it done, sorry. Nobody wants to be that person. And the other thing that we discovered over time is that, and we heard this echoed time and time again, this is the one meeting a week I refuse to miss. I'll blow off everything else, but I will never miss this meeting, because it was just that powerful. And I want to just quickly use an example of when I was co-writing a book with my friend Nicholas, and we did a similar thing, just the 2 of us, and we would have a weekly meeting. And he said the most productive hour of his week was the hour before we were scheduled to meet, because he refused to show up at that meeting without having done what we'd agreed on. So that weekly deadline to accomplish something big, to move your business forward, is massive. It's everything. And that's why these groups are just so successful, because everyone is committed to moving forward out of their comfort zone, being scared, do it messy, do it ugly, but just do it. The more you do it, the easier it's going to get. Like anything else in life, the more you do something, the easier it always gets.
So Christopher, I'm glad we got to talk about Wolfpack because that's such a big part of what you and I do and how we spend our time together.
Sure is.
But I have some questions to ask you.
Uh-oh.
So the first one is, what's your version of a shower moment? Meaning, when and where do you have the best ideas? When do they tend to show up for you?
About 7 minutes after I stop trying to figure it out. Truly, like if I'm struggling with a problem, beating my head against the wall, it's when I stop and walk away that my brain can then present the solution to me. And that stopping and a walking away can look really different. It can literally be getting up out of my chair, going for a walk, and halfway through the walk, something will pop into my head like, that's the answer. And why do I not have a pen to write that down? It can be, I just need a break. So I'm going to just take a break. I'm going to go sit outside. I'm going to read my book, or like a fiction book for a while. And 3 pages in, it's like, boom, there it is. The other one is at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, I will wake up with the solution and write it down on a pad of paper because that's always beside my bed. And the reason that pad of paper and pen is always beside my bed is because there's been multiple times where I've woken up in the middle of the night going, wow, that is the solution. That's awesome. It's so amazing. There's no possible way I can forget that. And then I wake up 3 hours later and I know that there was this amazing thing, but I have no clue what it was. And so after about 3 times of screwing myself over that way, it's like, no, there's always a writing implement and something to write on beside my bed. And it sits there for months, never being used. But there'll be that one time where it's really, really important.
That's funny because when I used to do events in hotels, before there were really phones, like cell phones, I used to give, when I hired new conference services managers, I used to give them a notebook to put by their bed for the same exact reason.
Yep.
Because when you're doing events, you have so many details going on, and you'll wake up and remember something that you forgot to do or something. And so I would give them notebooks. That's funny. So my next question is, what is the biggest lie you used to believe about success?
That it's not possible for me. It's possible for everybody else, but not for me. And that is such garbage for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Because success is not, it goes back to whatever I believe, whatever the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. So as long as I'm training my mind to think about the solutions that I need to move myself forward, it's impossible to fail. If I wallow in the, oh, well, this is really hard. Well, everything's hard. Who cares? I don't feel like it. Again, and I talk to my writing people all the time, is like, I don't care if you don't feel like writing. The person who's going to read your amazing book that's going to transform their lives couldn't care less that on Thursday, January, whatever, you didn't feel like writing. All they're going to care about is the fact that you pushed through that fear, that hesitation, that whatever, and got it done so that you could help them fix their lives. So, I mean, that is the biggest lie, is that I'm not possible. It's not possible. I'm not worthy. Those are the big ones. Yeah, I'm not worthy is a really big one.
Yeah. And just so everyone knows, the reason I ask these questions is because of our goal of how do we take better care of ourselves and set boundaries and find what works for us in order for us to have personal freedom and success. And so these questions kind of give a window into how people think about this according to their success and personal freedom. So my next question is,
well, I just want to add one quick thing in there first, if I may. My bet is that over time, that question probably gets answered almost identically, because these are common things. These are not things that are unique. I'm not super special and I'm the only person who's never not felt worthy. I mean, we all feel this. Like these things are kind of universal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the more we feel we're not alone, the more successful we can be.
Why do you think it took me 3 years since writing the book to do this podcast? Anyway, the next question is, was there a time you had to say no to something others thought you should do? And how did that change your life?
The example that jumps instantly into my mind is when I made the decision to quit my full-time job with benefits to go work for 6 weeks in the movie industry because it sounded really cool and exciting. And everyone in my world said, "Are you bleeping insane? Why would you give up a full-time job with benefits to go work on this stupid thing for 6 weeks, I think it was, with crappy pay?" And I said, "I don't know. I just know I have to do it." And the only person in my entire world that did not say I was foolish for that was my uncle, who's been a freelancer his whole life. And he said, "Chris, I am so pleased to hear that. I can't wait to hear how that goes. And what are you going to go? What are you going to do after that 6 weeks?" And I said, "I have no idea, Roger. Not a clue." He goes, "Even better." So there you
That's
go.
funny. But I think, I grew up in food and beverage, hospitality, like my teen years and college years, I worked in that industry. And it was, hey, I need some cash. I need to pick up a shift. But when you have a full-time salaried position, you can't do that.
No, you can't.
And so it was very hard for me to take a position that was a salary, like consistent pay and benefits, but I couldn't just pick up a shift and get cash if I needed it. So there's so many different mindsets around, what we do on a daily basis and how that works for us and how other people might do something different and how it works for them. I think it's eye-opening.
And the more we can just allow ourselves to take that leap of faith, to step out of our comfort zone, to do the thing that's really uncomfortable, it terrifies us, and yet we know in our gut we have to do it, just the better life is.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you succeed or not at it, that's kind of almost irrelevant. You get to live a life of fulfillment and of passion and of excitement in a way that the guy doing the guy who's doing the job that I quit today, I don't think there's a lot of there wasn't a lot of fulfillment there for me. Let me put it that way. I can't speak for anybody else.
Yeah. I mean, different people have different ways of being fulfilled too. So you never know. But
yeah.
Okay, the next question is, do you have a ritual, habit, or practice that helps you reconnect with yourself when life gets loud?
I have a recreational property that I bought when I was in my early 20s. And at the time I couldn't afford it, but I did it anyways. And it truly has been a lifesaver in more ways than I can probably count. And when I get overwhelmed or when things just seem too much, I go there and I sit and I write and I walk around the mountains and I chase the bears around and stuff. And there has always been, from the very first time I laid my eyes on that property, there's been something magical about it for me that just instills in me this knowing that somehow it's just going to be okay.
That's
So
awesome.
going to that place is it doesn't matter what I do there. It's just being there seems to be that soul medicine that I need.
That's awesome. It's like becoming MIA.
It's exactly like becoming MIA. Well, my version of it anyways. Dina's is missing intentionally alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think hers, remember the first time I said to Dina, well, I'm going to go MIA up on my property. She's just like, that's awesome. It didn't mean quite exactly what she does, but it's very close.
Yeah.
It is that taking that time for myself to either complete a project or just to get clear about a project or to go and do nothing and just sit and watch the hummingbird fights around the hummingbird feeder. I mean, that's just great fun all on its own. I mean, I can sit for hours watching those guys go at it. It's hilarious.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. How do you define personal freedom and what does it look like for you today?
Personal freedom.
I think it's kind of what you were just talking about.
I think it for me, it's being able to do the things that I know in my heart that I want to do, the things that I know in my heart God meant for me to do. Like teaching authors how to write books. Everyone has a book in them about something, whether it's dealing with a personal trauma that is part of the therapy of the getting through that, or whether it's, hey, I learned this really cool way to accomplish this task. Let me share that with you so that you can stop spinning your wheels and figuring it out. Like, everyone probably has a dozen books in them easily. So helping other writers. Once I cracked the code for myself, it really became helping other writers figure out how to get that done for them as well. And that's really extended into the whole Wolfpack thing as well, is because it's just helping someone achieve their greatness, whatever that looks like, shortcutting the process for them. Because, I mean, I spent 15 years never even completing a single first draft. So I know from excruciating experience what it feels like to not be able to finish a first draft. 15 years of experience of failing at that.
Well, you shortcutted my first solo book, so thank you.
And a friend of mine had been working on her first draft for 6 years. Her and I started working together. She published 2 books in the following 2 years, and big books and well-researched books. Like,
awesome.
The system is something that simply works. It doesn't matter what you're writing, who you're writing it to, your skill level. Apply this. That's the beauty of systems, though. And that's why what we've created inside Wolfpack is just a system. When I say just a system, what I mean is, here's a proven set of things that if you follow this procedure step by step, you can't fail. It's not possible to fail. That's all a system is a series of steps that have been proven to work. It leads you to accomplish a specific goal.
So I have 3 more questions. So what is something you let go of mentally, physically, or emotionally that made space for something better?
Well, letting go of the movie industry for sure. I spent 15 or 16 years working there, and for the most of that time, I loved it. But it was hard work. It was around the clock work. And yeah, we made a lot of money, but we also gave up our whole life to it. And through most of that, I was still able to maintain writing every single day. And I think the biggest reason that I ended up quitting, there's a couple of reasons, but one of the big ones was that I simply couldn't keep up writing every day anymore. I just was too burned out. And writing was way more important than this job.
Yeah, that's true. And you could probably say the same thing about the job you quit to go into the movie industry.
Oh,
right?
totally. Absolutely. Yeah. There's been multiple of them, but I mean, that was the one that immediately jumped to mind.
Awesome. So if you could give your younger self a permission slip, what would it say?
Write the damn outline, write the damn book, stop making excuses. That's what the note would say.
What would you say to that same question if we were talking about self-care?
Oh, you had to go there, didn't you?
I do. Yes.
This goes back to another thing I say all the time. We don't find the time to do anything. We make the time for things that are important to us. So if you are not making time for self-care, it's because you're not making it important to yourself enough. Mm-hmm. And if I had to go back in time, I would tell myself, make the time to take that walk. Make that time to go to the gym. Make that time, no matter what else is going on in your life, to do that every single day.
That's good. And it doesn't have to be, I have to go to the gym for an hour. It could be, I'm going to go take a walk for 10 minutes. I mean, it could be many things. So
the hardest part of doing any of that stuff is literally putting on my shoes and walking out the door.
Yeah.
Everything else is easy.
That is true. That is true. And usually when you think you don't have time or you don't feel like doing it and you do it, you're so glad that you did, whatever it is. That's my experience anyway.
I felt exactly like that yesterday, and I felt exactly like that today. And I went and did it both times anyways, and I felt better.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the last question is finishing this sentence. So
good.
My genius shows up when?
Ooh.
Obviously, you know my answer. It's in the shower.
Yeah, and I guess it's a similar answer. My genius shows up when I stop forcing myself to try and find the solution. It goes back to what I said earlier in the discussion, is that It's when I stop and walk away from the problem that the solution shows up.
I think the one I hear,
giving myself the space.
I'm sorry, say that again.
My genius shows up when I give myself space to walk away from the problem.
Perfect. I think the one I hear the most in the simplest form is my genius shows up when I give my brain a break.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah.
Yep. Agreed. So are there any other thoughts you want to leave with the audience today?
Well, sign up for Dina's podcast for starters. If you're not already subscribed, do that, because she's talking with interesting and fascinating people all of the time. The other thing, if you want to learn how to write a book, want to learn my system for making that happen, go to thediarmanimethod.com, and there's a bunch of information there for you. But the most important thing I would like for you to do is to go to wolfpackmentors.com and take the quiz. You land on the page, the very top corner of the button, there's a button that says take the quiz. Because if you're someone who is starting a business, running a business, but you're having a hard time because you're still doing most of the jobs yourself, that quiz will help you identify whether Wolfpack Mentors is the right thing for you or not. And whether it is or not, it doesn't matter whether the answer is yes or no. The answer is that you get more clarity once you have whatever your answer is.
Mm-hmm.
And we're so passionately committed for you to find clarity. That's the core of our mission.
Yeah. Clarity equals eventually more success, because
Absolutely.
we can't get to the next level until we're clear about what the next level is, what the strategy is to get there, and most importantly, the mindset. So
True.
It's Christopher and I started Wolfpack because it's what we needed. It's what helped us, and we want to help others. And as far as, building a business, we've both built other businesses and been successful. But this one is the most important and the most heart-centered, other than my nonprofit, obviously. But it is
Well,
really important to both of us to help other people who are in the shoes that we used to be in, and how to help them get to the next level of their business.
It's that passion to serve. And if you're starting your own business, you have that for your people as well. Like, you started the business because you had a passion to serve people. So we can help you shortcut the mountain climb to success. We would love to do that.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's fun. It truly is. It's a lot of fun.
It really is. Well, thank you, Christopher, for being here with me today. And I hope somebody gets major value out of this conversation.
Me too. Thank you for having me, Dina. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks. Thank you for tuning in to the Shower Genius podcast. If today's episode inspired you, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Let's keep the conversation going. Connect with me on social media at Dina Brown Mitchell, and visit theshowergenius.com to dive deeper into the Shower Genius framework. Until next time, remember, your best ideas deserve to see the light of day. Listen, learn, transform.